I wasn't expecting to make a video on this topic, but you know what? After sitting through the first season of this show, I feel like I should talk about it. I mean, I might as well since I've only talked about 2 shows over the past 5 years. So, Bluey. Yeah, don't tell anybody, but I actually really like this show.
Hold up. Go on.
Anyways, Bluey is one of those shows I really didn't get into at first, mainly due to its target audience. My first experience with this show is when my little sister was watching it on Disney Plus back in 2020. My dad was busy working on renovations downstairs and I had to watch over her. And off of what I can remember when watching it, I thought it was charming. But other than that, I didn't really think much else after that because I knew very well that I was not a part of the target demographic. Boy, was I wrong, and I am so glad that I was. Yeah, despite being a little preschool show, Bluey has become such a global phenomenon on television. Not only did children adore this show, but it even garnered a following from adults and especially parents. To a point where it's not just the best preschool show of all time, but among one of the best cartoons in recent memory. So ultimately, in the end, I decided to give this show a shot. And did it live up to my expectations? Well, if the first season is anything to go by, yes. Watching every episode from the first season, I found myself really loving this show. In fact, this is one of the rare instances where I legitimately could not find a bad episode. Even at its worst, it's not really all that bad. I mean, it's nothing really to write home about, but it didn't actively waste my time. In a way, this feels like the kind of show you would watch to be put in a good mood. This is mostly thanks to really likable and funny characters, very charming and endearing moments, and a great sense of realism thanks to its morals and situations. In a way, it feels less like a preschool show and more like a family show. But at the same time, it still tries to gear itself to its younger demographic, mainly with how the child characters are presented and the different situations they get themselves in. And after watching the first season, I'm pretty enthused to check out seasons 2 and 3. But for now, I want to talk about season 1. With how there's little to no episodes this season I could say I disliked, I don't really need to include a worst list. So to compensate for that, I extended this to be a top 10 best episodes of season 1. And as per usual, you should all know the rules by this point. These are all based off of my opinions, and if there's an episode you like that's not on here, then it's perfectly fine, because, like I said, I really liked every episode from this season. I just don't think they're really as good as my top 10 picks. Oh, and one more thing. I should probably warn you that the quality for some of the footage may be inconsistent, so I do apologize for that. But hopefully this isn't going to be the same with my future videos, considering...
I smell the DMCA.
But enough stalling at this point. Let's get into the top 10 best episodes of Bluey Season 1. Let's start off this list by talking about a simple episode.
This episode of Bluey is called Keepy Uppy.
This entire episode centers around Bluey and Bingo playing a game of Keepy Uppy, where they try their best to keep the balloon from touching the ground. However, their father Bandit tries to make the game much, much harder for them. I feel like this episode encapsulates a lot of what makes Bluey such a fun show. And while there are a couple of episodes that feel more charming and funnier, Keepy Uppy still manages to hold up for only being the 3rd episode of the show. Watching Bluey and Bingo playing Keepy Uppy is charming on its own, but when you throw in a few more characters getting involved with the game, I can't help but giggle at a lot of the scenarios they get themselves in. I especially love how Bandit is the one that's throwing in a lot of obstacles to make the game more challenging.
Haha, see that? Our toys saved the balloon.
Not for long.
No! Get it! Ah! It's heading for the fan! Oh no!
And you never once think he's being too mean or malicious with them. He's just trying to make the game more fun for them. Especially since he doesn't realize it was the only one they have. Overall, it's a really fun and charming episode, and a great way to start off this list.
Oh, my balloon. It's popped.
It's all good. We can blow up another one.
But that was my last balloon.
Oh.
episode of Bluey is called Teasing.
After teasing each other, Bluey and Bingo are told not to tease each other. But they feel Bandit is being a bit of a hypocrite for saying that, as they recount the times that he teased them over the years. Here we have the first of a few episodes I feel are a bit personal to me. For as long as I can remember, my dad usually loved to tease me and my little sister. Back when I was a kid, he used to pull my toes, break out into some annoying little jingle he hears a lot, and sometimes he would hold me upside down so the dogs would lick my face. But in all honesty, I hated it. And he still hasn't grown out of his teasing nature, as he would call me names, break wind, and blame it on me, and would pretend that everybody hates him. My little sister probably has it worse, as he would constantly rile her up when she's in a bad mood, not knowing that she can be pretty sensitive at times. So when I see Bandit teasing Bluey and Bingo, I can't help but mirror him to my father. And even putting that aside, the episode manages to be really funny. I especially like the twist at the end when it's revealed that Bluey and Bingo turn the tables on Bandit.
Do you want jam or peanut butter, Sharalanda?
I would like honey, please. Shooby-doo-wah.
Shooby-doo-wah? Who's Shooby-doo-wah?
You are.
What? Since when?
We changed your name.
You can't change my name.
Yes, we can. Shooby-doo-wah.
Hey,
More honey, please. Shooby-doo-wah.
my name's not Shooby-doo-wah.
So overall, I think it's a great episode. It tells a story that feels personal to me while also managing to be really charming and endearing on its own.
Diplodocus? That's it.
Hey, you can't get through here without Intruder! Intruder! Wait! This isn't fair!
I'm not done talking about personal episodes, because the points I made earlier with teasing applies to this one as well.
This episode of Bluey is called Yoga Ball.
When Bluey and Bingo are playing with the yoga ball, Bandit joins in. However, he plays a bit too rough with Bingo, and she's having a hard time trying to get across that to him. What makes this episode work for me is the scenes with Bingo and Bandit, as I couldn't help but mirror them to me and my dad. Like I said in my last entry, he has a habit of teasing me a lot. But there are times where he got a bit physical with his teasing. Whether he's pulling at my toe or my leg, embrace me way too tightly, or do it in moments where I don't want it, or would lean against me when I'm laying on my bed. But no matter how many times I try to tell him to stop or go easy on me, he always tells me to just man up. I get that he's not doing any of this stuff to be mean, because he clearly does love and care about me. But sometimes I wish he was a lot more gentle. So seeing Bandit get a little rough with Bingo, and her having a hard time trying to get across that, it honestly left me feeling really bad. And when we got to the ending where Bandit finally realizes he was being rough with Bingo, and actually attempts to try and make it easier, it really got to me. And that's what actually puts this episode above teasing. While it wasn't as funny as that episode, it did struck a chord with me more than that one. But it's not to say this episode wasn't funny. I like the little opening bit towards the beginning, and I also really love the Indiana Jones reference. Right down to the name of that game, Raiders. You're so cheeky.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go!
So yeah, I like this episode. It's funny, charming, and very personal.
So tell me, is this rough okay? Boing.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, how about this rough? Boing.
Yes, that's okay.
Okay, what about this? Boing. Okay, too rough.
Alright, let's get back to the comedic stuff.
This episode of Bluey is called Pepsi.
This episode follows Bluey playing a game with her family, where Bandit is in a rush to get to the airport, but all sorts of shenanigans delay his arrival. I feel like what made Bluey so popular is how it was able to appeal to both adults and children without having to talk down to them. Because this is just a hilarious episode. Like, all they need to do is put in a laugh track, and if they threw this into a sitcom, nobody would notice. It's just that fun. Not all of the jokes are winners,
Yeah.
Ah! This baby is vomiting all over me.
but the ones that do get me hard. It's probably the second funniest episode this season, in my opinion.
This isn't Stumbly Tastics. Yeah, this is the the zoo?
Beans on toast!
Why did you take us to the zoo?
I really wanted to see the penguins.
Oh, Satman.
Not much else to say other than the fact that it's just funny. And I really hope I do find more episodes like this in the future.
Ah! Don't take off! I want to get off! Where's the pilot? I demand to speak to the pilot!
Yoo-hoo! That's me! I'm the pilot!
Oh, biscuits.
This episode of Bluey is called Markets.
Bluey receives $5 from the Tooth Fairy and she doesn't know what she wants to spend it on. And when she does end up spending it, she feels like she didn't make the right decision. I like the little metaphor of this episode. Sometimes I can't help but wonder if I'm making a good decision whenever I buy something, or whenever I got my parents to buy me something when I was little. Some of the stuff I'm happy with, like with some of my electronical devices, including my tablet that I use for video editing and schoolwork, and the Wii system my parents bought all those years ago. But then there are stuff that I bought or asked for that I ended up regretting. Like this DVD of the Super Mario World Complete series. But mostly I feel like I get that whenever I get snacks. Sometimes I can't help but ask for an Edmonds marshmallow cake. Nowadays, since I'm in my 20s, I've been trying really hard to save most of my money. In fact, anytime I want to buy something, I mostly wait until I get a gift card for something like Amazon. So it's nice to have an episode of Bluey that addresses this allegory. Seeing Bluey feel so conflicted on what to spend the $5 on. And I feel like anybody who goes through this can relate. Plus, it's kind of adorable how the $5 ends up going back to Bluey and her friend. It's a pretty wholesome ending to what is a pretty enjoyable episode. Oh, and word to the writers, you better not throw any more poop humor.
Goodbye, Buttermilk. You're so beautiful. That was disgusting. This episode of Bluey is called Camping.
During a camping trip, Bluey comes across a foreign boy whom she hits it off with. They play together until the day he suddenly leaves to go back home with his family. Admitted, you all ship Bluey with Jean-Luc, don't you? Anyways, this episode is just so charming. Like, I'm pretty sure some people would relate to Bluey when they hang out with someone and become friends for the short time they were with you. And just seeing Bluey get along with a boy from France is just so wholesome. Even though they can't speak each other's language, the chemistry and bond they have together feels so believable and heartwarming. And it's kind of saddening that Jean-Luc wasn't able to tell Bluey that he's leaving the next day, leaving her to feel bummed that she might never see him again. And then we get this little exchange between her and Chili.
Sometimes special people come into our lives, stay for a bit, and then they have to go.
But that's sad.
It is. But the bit where they were here was happy, wasn't it?
Yeah. We caught a wild pig together.
Maybe that makes it all worth it.
But I also really love the little ending bit, where we cut to a few years later when Bluey's an adult and she reunites with Jean-Luc, and he greets her in English. Just perfect. I really don't have much else to say about it. It's just so wholesome.
Will I ever see him again?
Well, you never know. The world's a magical place.
Whoa. Finished. Ooh, stars. Pretty.
This next episode is the one I remembered the most when I was first watching this with my little sister back in 2020.
This episode, Bluey is called Shadowlands.
In this episode, Bluey and her friends are playing a game of Shadowlands as they try to reach their way back to their parents. I really don't know what there is to say about this episode. I could probably go into this episode's message about following the rules when playing a game, but I feel like Josh Scorcher discussed this topic way better than I ever could. I can also talk about how fun it is watching Bluey and her friends try to work their way through Shadowlands, looking for every opportunity to try to find their way through each obstacle. Or I could talk about how the name of this episode feels like it belongs in an RPG. But I feel like I'd be here all day listing everything I like about this. Bottom line, this episode is really fun. And it's no wonder why this episode is grained into my memory. Even though there are 3 episodes I came across that I like a bit more.
Wait! It's getting windy! Ah! Wind's making it move! I can't stay on! sleepover.
In this episode, Muffin is having a sleepover with Bluey and Bingo. However, Muffin is very tired because she missed her nap time, so Bluey tries everything she can to prolong their playtime. This is honestly the funniest episode of the show so far. I have no idea how they managed to pull this off, but they managed to make a hyperactive child funny. If I had to make a guess, it would probably be because of how it's presented. Like, you know that scene from the SpongeBob SquarePants movie where SpongeBob and Patrick get drunk on ice cream? That's the feeling I get watching a tired Muffin. And there are times where it doesn't really shy away from that. They make it very clear that Muffin is pooped. And I just find that allegory so clever. And the VA behind Muffin deserves a raise because they really sell it.
SpongeBob! Sheila! I'm coming, Flamingo!
And even aside from the humor, the episode does have a decent message for children about prolonging. And it makes for a pretty good resolution. Even without the humor, it would still probably place within the top 5. So yeah, I do consider this a great episode. And I would love to see if they made an episode funnier than this one in the future.
Hey, Muffin! Ow!
Coconut! This episode of Bluey is called Hide and Seek.
During a game of hide and seek, Bluey starts to lose focus on the game due to a bunch of distractions getting in her way. Out of every episode this season, this is the one I relate to the most. Sometimes I can have a terrible attention span. I can be very forgetful of things I need to do, and I can sometimes find myself dozing off into space. Hell, even when I'm in the process of making videos, I can sometimes get distracted by other stuff. I don't do all this just to be rude or lazy or anything, because I always try to have the best of intentions. So seeing Bluey get distracted with her toys when she's playing hide and seek with her family, I can't help but see her in my shoes. Of course, nowadays I'm trying to work around this issue, especially since I'm a senior in college at the time of recording this. But even putting aside the relatability factor, there's still a lot about this episode I really like. The episode can be really funny, especially with this little Furby wannabe. The interactions Bluey has with it just have me laughing.
This is a tea party, not a dancing party. Keep it down. Oh, I'm so sorry about my husband.
Plus, it still serves as a good plot device for the episode, incentivizing Bluey to find her mother and everyone else by getting back to the game. So yeah, all in all, it's a great episode. For a while, I actually had this as my number 1 pick. However, there was one episode I felt was even better. But even with that, I still really love this one. It's charming, hilarious, and relates to me personally.
Now, I have to get back to home. Oh, Chattermax.
What did I say about
It's a video.
Can I push play?
Yeah, go on.
This story is called Bumpy and the Wise Old Wolfhound.
Taking place in the hospital, Bingo watches a video made by her family. The framing device is what carries this episode for me. A simple episode made by Bluey and her family for Bingo, telling the story of someone trying to heal their dog Bumpy. The idea of an episode framed as a little home video is genius. I remember when Gumball did the same thing with the episode The Tape, and I absolutely loved that episode. And this one's no different. It also has an advantage of being made for Bingo, who's in the hospital. It's so heartwarming seeing Bluey make a video for Bingo as a way of telling her to get well soon. She even got help from her family, including Socks, Bandit, Stripes, Trixie, Muffin, and even her friends Lucky and Mackenzie. Like, the dedication just... wow. I can also bring up how the framing device pretty much caters to me, because as a kid, I made a lot of home videos. Whether it was for uploading them on YouTube, or even putting it on DVD to show to my family. Hell, I actually still have some of those discs. In fact, let me show you some clips of them.
Cookies should be in this world.
And of course, this episode is just so funny. Mainly when we see Bluey and her family break character.
Go up, Bluey!
Oh, Muffin.
We can edit that bit out, right?
So yeah, it caters to me personally, it's really hilarious, and the scenario is just so heartwarming. All this makes for what is easily my favorite episode of Season 1.
The end. See you later,
So, yeah, those are my favorite episodes of Bluey Season 1. And I am so glad that I started watching this show. And I'm looking forward to watching Seasons 2 and 3 in the future. Can they manage to top it in terms of quality, or was it just lightning in a bottle? Regardless of what I think of those seasons, though, Season 1 was a fantastic start. But what do you guys think? What are your favorite episodes of Bluey Season 1? Let me know down in the comment section below, and as always, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.